The next thing I think we'll work on is it's a little pot that contains the isopropyl alcohol, which causes the heat, which makes the engine work. The last time I made one of these for a different project, I started out with a big, thick block of aluminum, and I bored out, like 90% of it to make a dish. It's not going to be very big. But anyway, you're removing, like I said, about 90% of the material. So this time around, I have this cylinder, a large length of it, left over from another project. And what I'm thinking is to use this instead for the main body. But then, of course, you need a bottom on this thing. So I guess what I'm thinking of doing, is cutting a little, cutting a slice off here, and making it such that it fits and plugs the bottom of this, and then facing it and so forth. So anyway, we'd have a bottom. And then when that's all done, assuming that all works, we have to make a top. And, the plans call, for the top to have a bit of an upward taper to it. So I would make that out of this as well. And then, of course, there's a hole drilled through it where the wick comes up. So let me cut some of these down to size on the bandsaw, and then we'll head over to the lathe. And this is sort of just going to happen. I don't have a real plan in mind here, but sometimes I just work that way. So let's go see what happens. Okay, I'm starting with the tube that will end up being the main body of the cup. I've faced both sides of it to make it square. And now the inside of this is the rough mill finish, and we don't want to leave it that way, so I've put my boring bar in here. And what I'm going to do now is just clean that inside surface. And the way I'll do that is I'm just going to jog the bit, outward toward the edge until it touches. Just right there. And now what I'm going to do is just make a few cleanup passes in and out. We'll use some cutting fluid. I'm going to jog out about, let's try 4/1000ths on the first cut. Now that's 4/1000ths off the diameter. All right, that removed just a little in various places, because we're certainly nowhere close to, the mill finish is anything but perfectly round, so we'll do that a few times. taking 4 thousandths off on each pass. Alright, we still, parts of it are nice, but other parts aren't even being touched yet. So we'll just keep doing this until we get a nice finish on it. Still have a ways to go. By the way, if you remember the last boring fiasco we had with the cheap import bits, I'm now using new bits that, well, you could shave with these. I mean, these are incredibly sharp. Alright, I've gotten all of it now. One of the people who commented on the video where we had all the issues with boring said that when you get close to the final diameter, you should start taking spring passes. And he explained that to mean now without adjusting the X value on the cross slide, just make a pass, because there is some flex in here, and that will actually remove a little bit of material even though you're not adjusting the position. Now, can you see all of this material that was just removed? And we didn't do anything. We just redid the last operation. So, just did right. Now, what he was talking about was how you sneak up on a final, when we're trying to get a precise diameter here. We're not doing that. We're just going to, our objective is just to make something that looks pretty, but let's just, he said you could do it a couple of times, so let's just see. We'll do it again. Yeah, now, I mean, I doubt you can see that, but we have, again, removed some more material. It's just a little bit, but, if you were trying to get, a very tight tolerance, spring passes are removing, I don't know how little they're removing, but they are removing material. All right, well, that's certainly a nice enough finish for the inside of an alcohol pot. So I guess the next thing to do is measure that inside diameter. Because what I'm thinking of doing is, for the piece that I'm going to use for the plug to make the bottom, is we'll machine a shoulder into here and bring that down to the diameter that, just force fits itself into there. And then we'll just press fit these together, probably with some epoxy. And then once that's done, then we can remove all the excess, but because we don't need a bottom this thick. I just needed something to hold on to. So, let me take some measurements, and then I'll put this piece in, and I'll face it, and then we can start cutting the shoulder that'll fit in there. All right, I've faced off both sides of this blank. That's going to be the bottom of the pot. And I've switched over to my turning tool. And then what I'm going to do is jog in just until I touch the face there. I'll set that as Z0. Now what I'm going to do is touch off in X. Which is right there. And I'm going to mark that as X2 because the nominal diameter of this blank is 2 inches. And what I'll do now, and you've seen me do this over and over again before, but I'm just going to turn this down until it's round, and then we'll take a measurement, set the DRO to where we really are, and then we can cut that shoulder. Just removing 5 thousandths from the diameter. All right, it's measuring 1.9855. So I just set the DRO to that value. So now the DRO knows, or so the Mach 3 knows exactly where we are. When I measured the inside of the tube that we just bored, I got a dimension of 1.52. So we're going to want to cut a shoulder into here down to that diameter. Alright, the wizard is set up. Should just do its thing now. snug. Which is better than the alternative, being too loose. Looks like we're about, I don't know, close to about 8 thousandths too big. So let's see what we can do about that. Alright, that's where the G code thinks we left off. So just take off a couple of thousandths. Still too snug. I think we're very close though. I'll bet you. I'll bet you with my arbor press, I could press that on. We probably wouldn't even need any epoxy or Loctite or any of that kind of stuff. I keep telling you I'm going off camera to work on my arbor press, and I guess it's just to show you what I'm talking about here. It's just something. It's like a big orange juice squeezer, except that it's capable of exerting like a ton of downward force. I should have it bolted down to the workbench, but I just moved it and I don't. So it may move a bit on us. But anyway, I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite around the edge here. I doubt it's necessary, but I'll do that anyway. And by the way, after I took the parts off the lathe, I thoroughly washed them with soap and water, remove all of the cutting fluid and such. That's not going anywhere. All right, we have a really nice seal on that. So now we can get back to work. What we have now is a really nice internal alcohol lamp pot thing, whatever you want to call this. But the outside is, let's just call it beefy. And it certainly doesn't need to be. In fact, this should be nice and delicate when it's completed. So we've got about 1/4 of an inch of material here. And I'd like to remove a lot of that. So I guess that's what we'll do first. How much do we leave? Yeah, we'll just wing it. Alright, so we don't have to get fancy here. We'll just call that Z0. It's close enough. Turning it down to about there, which is minus 1.12. This is just seat of the pants metalworking here. Just finding X here. Touch off. Right there. All right, well, it certainly looks a lot more delicate, if you will. I still haven't decided if I want to make it just a little thinner than that. I mean, at this point, we're talking just totally aesthetic. And no one's ever going to see the inside because there'll be a top on here, so yeah, we'll probably just leave it like this. All right, I'm still deciding what to do next. The thing is way too deep, and I'm going to have to cut, some of that off. And then obviously we've got to flip it over and remove this big hunky chunk from the bottom. I think I'm going to need some time to stare at this and think about what to do next. So hang in there, I'll get back to you. After thinking about it, I decided that the best approach is to first remove this big chunk here from the bottom by facing that off. And then sanding the part. And then because we're using the reversible jaws that I mentioned, when they're in the reverse position, they don't mar the finish. We can take the sanded part, flip it, and then remove, like I said, there's way too much depth here. So we'll, remove some of that. And then that should finish this piece. And then we'll go and make the top for it. So, this will take a while, so I'm not going to make you sit through it. I, on the other hand, do have to sit through it. So I'll bring you back when we get through that. All right, I removed the big chunk that was sitting here. What's left now? When we made the plug for the bottom, we cut a step into it and recessed it into the tube. But there's still, a fair amount of meat here that, just isn't serving any purpose. So I'm going to remove a 1/10 of an inch from this. All right. Well, the cup that holds the fuel is finished now. It's all sanded and stuff, and it's funny, I don't know. I look at this, and I remember how much stock we started with, and it's just it's incredible what we went through to get down to this little piece, but anyway, it looks nice. So what I'm starting to do now is make the top for it. And the first thing I want to do, well, I've already faced it, but the first thing I want to do, or the next thing I want to do, is bring it down to the same diameter as the cut. So I'll do that first. So much different machining aluminum than brass. Brass just sort of leaves dust behind. All right. Again, I'm winging this like I did the bottom part. I think what has to happen is a hole has to be drilled through here, all the way through, to allow the wick to come out, from the cup with the fuel in it, to the point where we light it. What I want to do is cut a taper on here, again, just for looks. And I'm thinking that it would be nice if there were a little shoulder where the hole goes, so that we can make a cap to put over it when we're not using it, just to minimize evaporation. The reason I'm hesitating is because there's just not a whole lot of stock here. There's not, we have to flip this over and cut a shoulder on the other side. I'm a little concerned about how much material we've got to play with. Let's cut the taper first and see what that looks like. The tapering wizard in Mach 3 is really bizarre because it asks you where your X and Y, X start and end points are on the taper, and your Z start and end points are. Which of course is all you need, or all it should need, to figure out what angle we're looking for. But it also asks you for the angle that you want the taper. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do, is guess at an angle? Because I've given it all the information it needs. If you think about it, draw a little picture, you'll see. If you know where X start and end is, and you know where Z start and end is, well that's your angle. But this thing asks for an angle too, and depending what angle you give it, it sort of almost ignores the other data. I still haven't figured out what it's doing, so this is sort of trial and error a bit. I'm just doing this so that it looks cool. I don't really care what the angle is, I just want something that looks nice. Yeah. Looks nice. What to do next? I guess we'll drill a hole. Wondering if I'll be able to flip this. Really isn't a whole lot holding that when I do that, because the taper is keeping it away. This may end up being the impossible part to make. Alright, I'm going to machine that big old hunk down to the same diameter as what we've got in the jars. I really think I want that little step on here. So I'm going to cut that, and then we'll recut the taper. I didn't realize that the camera had stopped filming, so I don't know where we left off, but I decided to make that little shoulder here, and then recut the taper. And I'm just doing that with MDI commands. Alright, that ought to do. I just wanted something to be able to grip onto when I put a little top over that. So now I'm going to recut the taper. Now it's going to cut air a bit, obviously, because there already is a taper here, but it should eventually catch up and give us the same taper we had before. At least that's the plan. I love it when a plan comes together. Alright, I like that better. Now comes the really tricky part. Because we still have to flip this over and cut a shoulder. What I want is to cut a shoulder on here so that, because right now this is the same diameter as this. At least in theory. So that sits right on top of there, but that's not what I want. I want a shoulder on here so that part of this sits inside here, you know, just to give us a little bit of a seal. This is also too thick back here. So, you know, my real concern it's just, there's not a whole lot to grab onto, but okay, let's just see what we've got here. That was Z0, and we can, I just want to see how far back we can cut without hitting the jaws. Alright. Cross your fingers. Don't hit the chuck. You're probably wondering what the heck I'm doing here. But yeah, the idea, here we go, is that. That's what we've been trying to do. See how that works? That goes here. So, the only thing left now is that there's way too much material here, so that needs to be faced. And then we can sand it and I'm cheating here. I'm just using the keyboard to remove lots of material. Don't tell anyone I did it this way because they get all upset and you're not doing it right and blah blah blah. Obviously, when I do it that way, I'm not going to get a really nice surface finish, but we did remove a lot of material in a hurry, so now we'll do it the right way, just to get the right surface finish. Again, just with MDI commands. The only difference here from what I was doing incorrectly is that now I'm moving at a nice controllable feed rate of F5. And before I was just running at however fast the steppers would take me. Alright, well, it's the nicest inside of a part that no one will ever see that I've ever done. So, now, it just sits on there and it looks like a miniature spaghetti pot. We'll just sand it and polish it. And then I'm going to make, like I said, just a little cap to sit on here. At least I think I am. I always reserve the right to change my mind. But anyway, that's our alcohol lamp. All right, the alcohol lamp is done, as you just saw. And what I'm going to do now is make a little cap to sit on top of it. The idea is for it to cover the wick when it's not in use. And again, that's just to minimize evaporation. So I've set up my drilling rig on the cross slide that I've shown you before. One of the main well, there are a lot of reasons I use this, but one of them is that I can programmatically set the depth that I want to drill to. And in this case, it has to be very precise. So anyway, so I'm doing it this way. All right, well now what we have is a cap that'll sit right on top of here, and it's just a little bit bigger than the little shoulder we left behind, so that'll sit there. But it's way too tall, and it's way too big in diameter. So now that the hole is drilled, we can flip it around. And then we'll turn it down to the final diameter and part it off. All right, I've switched over to the turning tool. I've located Z0, and I have to locate X just by touching off. The nominal diameter is 0.5, so we'll set that. And now I'm just going to turn this down to 0.4. Whoa. Well, that's nice. I told it the starting diameter was 5 instead of 0.5. Decimal point trick. All right, back to the wizards. You know, when you make a mistake in your G code, you know, too big, you can quickly see the cross slide moving too far out of the way. But I've also made the mistake of setting it too small, and then you've got tools crashing into parts, and it's always good to check your work. But all right. Next, I'll well, all that's left is to have to part this thing off, but I do want to sand it while it's here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think I'd also like to put just a little bit of a bevel on the top here. I just think that might make it look a little nicer. All right, I'm gonna go off camera now, sand this, and we'll come back and part it, and that should be done. All right, it's all sanded and shiny and ready to be parted. So I've got my my parting tool in here. Now I always do this by hand, and I always say that I'm going to, disconnect the steppers, but I should point out that you do have to turn off the hardware controller before you unplug the stepper, which is what I'm doing right now. Otherwise, bad things can happen. And also, it needs to be off before you plug in a stepper. But you probably already knew that. So now, that's our cutting fluid. I'm going to very slowly turn my way using a hand wheel. I've seen people be much more aggressive when they do this, but I've never had any luck being aggressive doing this. So I just go nice and slow. All right, now let's see if you can see what we've got here. So here is the alcohol lamp with the wick in it, and the whole objective of this guy. Too much wick there. Probably a lot easier to do when I'm not holding it in this awkward position. But anyway, that's the idea. So we now have a little cap to put over the wick when we're not using it. So we're done with this. Stay tuned for our next part.